Ladies and gentlemen, there are plenty of seats at the front. You only have to move up front, and there's must be 20, 30 seats up the front here.
Now I know how to switch the microphone on. You just stand there and do that. Anyway, good evening to everybody. You'll be pleased to know it's a bigger audience than Des O'Connor got at the Woodville Halls a year or so ago. Welcome along to our forum. It's a joint forum from what we usually have joint forums every now and again, but really it's the Gravesham Rural and Gravesham East Forum, and welcome along. I'm Brian Sweetland. I'm the KCC Councillor for Gravesham Rural, and my colleagues from Gravesham East, Jane Cribben and Colin Keller. Do you want to stand up? Everybody knows you, but have a quick stand up. There we go. Not too much of a clapping for them, please. Before we start, I'm afraid I have to go through a few legal things. First of all, housekeeping. We're not expecting any fire drills this evening, so if you hear a fire alarm, please make your way to the nearest exit. And there's 4 immediate exits in the hall, one through the back of the cafeteria, as well as fire exits through each learning zone. So we're not expecting a fire drill. If there is one, please leave the hall as quickly as possible. There's male, female and disabled toilets at the back of the hall, and there's also, it's quite a warm evening, so there's also plenty of cold water at the back. And webcasting. We are being webcast live on Gravesham TV this evening, and I just have to read this out as well, another legal notice. If anyone wishes to avoid being on camera, then please let one of the event staff know immediately. The entire seated area will be in camera view. For anyone speaking at the meeting, it's also important to use the microphones. There's 6 actually going around, so if you're going to ask a question later on, please wait until the microphones are with you. 2 reasons. One, the TV station's got to pick it up, and secondly, other people in the hall will need to hear your question. If anybody's got a mobile phone, will they please turn it off? And around the room are exit signs should the fire alarm go off. So we've done that one already. This is a formal meeting, and there are elected officials here, councillors from Gravesham Borough Council and Kent County Council, so I am legally obliged to ask if any of them have got any declaration of interest that they wish to announce to everybody now. Anybody? Okay, good. This is a great turnout. I think we're up to about 500 people at the moment, and there's still a few people coming in. And the subject, as you know, this evening is the Lower Thames crossing. This is a subject that's been around since 2008. It was first announced, these route options were first announced in 2009, but you remember, well, you did see fairly recently, a couple of weeks ago, on the television, it was announced by the Roads Minister that the government were actually going to start a consultation. That's where we are at the moment. I'm pleased that the bulk of the presentation this evening will be given by colleagues from the Department of Transport. This is not a Gravesham project, it's not a Kent County Council project. We are consultees, the same as all you are, and there's a great opportunity for everybody here, whether you're representing an organisation or whether you're here as an individual, to make your thoughts known, and later on the friends from the Department for Transport will tell you how to do that. Now, I hope this evening won't be frustrating, but there's quite likely to be more questions than there are answers, as you've seen. The consultation is fairly loose at this time, and the government are consulting on 3 route corridors. So there isn't at the moment any details more than that. There's corridors A, B, C, and C variant. And I'm sure that if you've got any questions, the civil servants from Department of Transport will actually be able to answer them. But they are officers, so please treat them with respect. If you want to have a go at somebody, there's plenty of politicians here who will expect it anyway. The other thing I would like to say is that a lot of the councillors here have had briefings on the Lower Thames crossing over the last few weeks, so they're quite able to ask questions, but I would like to give the priority to the questions to the residents, because this is a good opportunity. You've come out this evening. I suspect most of you live within the area that's been affected, or may be affected, we don't know yet. And if you've got a question, and I recognise most of the councillors, so we'll try and give some sort of priority to the residents who have come out this evening. So it was, I think, at the 21st of May when the Roads Minister, Stephen Hammond, came down to Dartford. You might have seen it on the news to announce that the government were going to start the period of public consultation. But if you didn't catch the news, let's have another look at it now.
Sometimes there's gridlock with cars and lorries stacked up for miles. The answer, the Roads Minister says, build another bridge.
For the growth, for the congestion on the strategic road network, for the benefit of local people, we need another crossing here. And what we're consulting on today is 3 possible corridors, which I hope people will take the opportunity to get involved in the consultation.
No change needed though, say green groups. Better to wait until the results of a scheme next year, which will see the toll booths disappear and a congestion charge style payment system introduced. Maybe that will get the traffic flowing more smoothly.
Well, I think we just leave it as it is, because there's a lot of expense in building it, and if there isn't a need for it, then there's little point in doing it. I think there needs to be a full traffic management survey to tell us what's going on and to make sure that it's modelled as to how these things are going to affect it.
The choices outlined today are a crossing next to this one, downriver at Swanscombe or further east past Gravesend. The cost likely to be anywhere from £1 billion to £5 billion. The schemes are dividing opinion. The company behind a proposed theme park on the Swanscombe Peninsula has threatened to pull out if the crossing goes there. Meanwhile, few in the Gravesend area want to see it in that part of the Thames.
Obviously, the third option, which is an area that I represent, I wouldn't be in favour of another Thames crossing. It would be hugely damaging environmentally, it would be very costly, and I think we do need a quicker fix for this problem. You can see it's not too bad today, but this can go back for miles. We do need a fairly quick fix here, I think, at Dartford.
I think what's important is that we do make sure we choose the right option. What we don't want to do is spend millions and millions on a complete white elephant. It's got to be the right decision. The traffic's there now, the congestion is there now. We know it's a problem, and we know that we need more capacity for the future.
The consultation will last until July the 21st. The government hopes to choose its preferred option in the autumn, but as for when a crossing will actually be built, well, it could be at least a decade away. Derek Johnson, ITV News, at the Dartford crossing.
Okay, so that's what happened on May the 21st. I'm sure a lot of people caught that on the television at the time. I would just like to draw your attention that we do have a lot of councillors. We've got John Burden coming down, the leader of Gravesham. He's come down from a conference. He should be here very, very shortly. I've introduced you to the Kent County councillors. John Cubitt is leader of the opposition on Gravesham Borough Council. And we're very pleased to have Adam Holloway MP, wherever Adam is. He's over there. And also from CPRE and Protect Kent, doing a great job. Richard and Hilary and James and Alex, so they're in the audience as well, and I'm sure they will give something to contribute a bit later on. There's also a lot of representatives from the parish councils. But I guess the important people that I have to introduce now from the Department for Transport is James Hewson and Fiona Wilson. There, James, I think, is going to run through a presentation. Fiona's here to maybe answer some of the questions as well. Be gentle with them, okay? They've come down here in their own time. It's all part of the consultation exercise. And as I say, they're not politicians, so let's give them a fair hearing and show them some respect. Welcome them to Gravesham. Thank you very much.
Well, first of all, just to check the domestics, can you all hear me towards the back? I know the room's very full. I wanted to start by thanking you, actually, for coming down here today to find out a bit more about this consultation and to hear what we have to say. And a little later on, we hope to listen to your views as well. I aim to speak for about 10 to 15 minutes, following which there should be ample opportunity for questions. I'd like to start by saying that although today we are very interested in hearing your views about the crossing policy decision, if you'd like us to take into account your views as part of the consultation, I would ask that you respond to us in writing, and I'll tell you at the end of this how you can do that through various means. Okay, so what I'm going to do today is tell you a bit about what the consultation's about, what the options are for the crossing, and I would emphasise at this point that these are just that, they are options. At this time, the Department for Transport is not actually promoting any of these options, and as such, they're not proposals. This genuinely is an open consultation. I will, as the events organisers have asked me to, describe some of the pros and cons of each of the options. That will be an overview. There is much more information actually in the consultation document itself, and along that side that we've we've published the analysis that we did as part of the review of the options. In the consultation document itself, I should also say it gives you full instructions about how you can reply to the consultation, and it actually gives the consultation questions that we're asking you to elicit information about your preferences at this point. So, what this consultation is about, it's about the preferred location for a new Lower Thames crossing. At this stage, we're asking for your views on the broad location and the strength of the case that you feel there exists for additional capacity. What we are not doing at this point is presenting specific route proposals. That is for a later stage after the broad location is chosen, and the route itself would need to be the subject of further consultation. So just a brief outline of the options, and many of you will be familiar with these already. Option A would be to build another crossing at the site of the existing one, the A282 between Dartford and Thurrock. The second option is to connect the A2 near the Swanscombe Peninsula with the A1089 north of the river. And the third option, option C, is to build a new crossing which would link the M2 and the M25 to the north of the river. There is also a variant of option C which would additionally widen the A229 between the M2 and the M20, which would give greater connectivity there. I should say that these options were shortlisted by previous work over the years. There have been many studies of the question as to where to locate another Thames crossing, including some studies which Kent and Essex County Councils have carried out themselves on very similar options to these. I should say that in the documentation that we have put out into the public domain, while we have shown some illustrative alignments, these were drawn up purely as the basis at this stage for actually coming up with some credible capital cost estimates that would differentiate options A, B, C and the C variant. And also just to understand actually whether these really are options at all in engineering terms. It is only once the location decision between A, B and C, or C variant, has been taken that we then would go on to consider what the alternative route alignments might actually be. I said to the event organisers that I would say a word or two about the overview of the pros and cons, or the relative merits of the options. All options have both. There is none that is superior in every single respect. And so the merits of option A broadly are that it's best at alleviating congestion at the existing crossing, and also it has the least overall impact generally on the natural environment, but that's not to say that there is none at all, as you'll see if you read the documentation that we've published. On the cons, option A does not offer any new connectivity across the Thames. It simply expands the capacity of what's there already. And as such, of the three options, it has the least contribution to make in terms of stimulating economic growth. Option B, the pros very much are that it alleviates congestion, again, at the existing crossing, but it does so less than option A in the forecasts that we've carried out. As it provides some new connectivity, the analysis that we have carried out suggests that it supports economic activity in the local area. On the con side, another crossing in that location was found that it could add more delay to the A2 and the A13. in our analysis, we forecast that it would increase greenhouse gas emissions. We also recognise that it may impact on development sites on the Swanscombe Peninsula. And finally, unique to option B is that it crosses an area of important heritage value. Turning to option C and the variant, which I will take together, the pros are, again, some alleviation of congestion at the existing crossing, but less than A. Of the three options, option C offers the greatest journey time benefits to road users, and it has the greatest benefits, actually, of the three options. Option C, we forecast, would also lead to a decrease in greenhouse gas emissions from vehicle journeys using the crossings. And that is in part because some journeys could be shortened by it. The cons in outline are very much that it passes through greenbelt land, or could do. We recognise that. And it has the greatest impact on the natural environment of the three options, although, as I say, at this stage we would need to do more work if option C is chosen on what the impacts of any specific route alignments would be, and the motivation of that work would very much be to see what could be done to mitigate any impacts. Turning to the conclusion, I'd just like to sort of tell you how you can respond to the consultation and how you can make your views known in this to us and have them considered as part of the weighing up of the three options. We have issued consultation documents around the room today, and these are also available on the DFT's website, along with the analysis that actually was carried out as part of the review of the options. There is a questionnaire that we've devised with consultation questions in it, if you want to provide your views to us in that form. You can download that response form on the website, and alternatively, you can write to us at the address there, or you can send an email to the Lower Thames Crossing Consultation email address. The consultation will close on the 16th of July, and after that we will be analysing what you've told us and taking your views into account. So that's all I wanted to say for now. I think there will be some questions which will go to a few of the councillors that are here, as well as myself and my colleague. Thank you very much for listening.
Do you want to stay here? Thank you very much. Thank you, James. Here's a few other we're on this one. Okay. These are the community websites that people have given me. There's CPRE Protect Kent providing some useful information. They've got a good website. There's a Facebook page now which is up and running, and there's a website as well. So they're just members of the community who have put those websites together. And I think that one of the important things is it covers quite a large area, is that everybody has the opportunity to access good, reliable information. In addition to that, there's of course the Department for Transport website as well, and no doubt there's various bits and pieces on KCC and Gravesham's website as well. Okay, well, we said that we would try and give as much time as possible to people here, in particular residents. So, James, thank you very much indeed. I don't know if Fiona, you're going to come up and join us as well. Now, with the consultation, I will just say it is really important that people do respond to this consultation. You can do it in two ways, either online, which I actually think is a bit leading, or you can actually write, and you can maybe comment on that. That might be the first question. Why is your website so leading, but your online consultation? But you can write as well, or send an email, and there's all. Can we go back a slide, and that's probably show you where the where to send your emails and letters to as well. Okay. That was the first question, actually, wasn't it? It was your online questionnaire. Maybe some people have said to me it was a little bit leading, where you have to go and say A, B or C, when some people actually want to say D.
I think 2 points. One is government starting from a point of view of there is a need for additional capacity. And we kind of set out in the consultation document, we set out in the other documentation we've published on the website about why that is believed to be the case. Very briefly, and James touched on it a bit, additional crossing is built to take about 135,000 vehicles a day. It takes at least 140,000 and as high as 180,000. We are in the process of developing the free flow charging scheme, which will be coming in October next year. That will remove the barriers and it will collect the charge in a different way. And that will alleviate some of the congestion that's experienced at the crossing. But it won't fundamentally remove the problem that there are more people wanting to use that crossing than that crossing was built to take. And that is in today's world. So the free flow will make things better, but it won't be able to deal with the forecasts that we have about population growth and the impact that has then on traffic growth, which is predicted to grow between about 10 and 20%, I think in the next 30 years. Okay. So we are trying to plan now for, and some could say somewhat belatedly, we're trying to plan now both for the problems we're experiencing at the crossing now, but as well as growth that is strongly predicted. If the Minister were here, he'd also tell you that he is frequently lobbied by businesses, business organisations who are looking to develop and take forward development in this area, and they are very keen to see new capacity put in that enables them to move goods and that supports housing growth and other plans for development in the area generally. So one of the reasons, sorry, it sounds like a long way, but one of the places we're starting from is that there is a need for capacity. So that's the question we're interested in answering. But equally, we provide the catch-all boxes in the response, which is, basically this is your chance to tell us whatever it is you want to tell us about this subject of putting additional capacity in. So it is not by any stretch of the imagination that you can only tick at box A, box B or box C, for example. There are a few questions. We are explicitly interested in what people's views are about which crossing and what the nature of an infrastructure might be, either a bridge or a tunnel or an immersed tunnel at any of those locations. But we are equally made the provision within that response for people to express their views. And as James said, the department has not taken a position on this subject at this point in time. This is genuinely a consultation where we are saying we have done some work, we've put that work out there, we've published it, and we now need to know what you think, because come the close of the 16th of July, James and I will be, along with a few other people, busy going through what all of those responses are, and we will need to put some advice to the Minister later in the summer for him to make a decision, and that is where we need to get your written response to ensure that your views form part of that advice that goes to our Minister. Right, so it's a good time now for people to express their views, and they can do it by the ways on the screen, but they can also ask you some questions tonight. So let's have a first question. Gentleman here, Terry Hall, I think it is.
Yeah, Terry Hall, resident of Isted Rise. If I can ask a two-part question. Firstly, the logic for me is that option A seems a very logical option. Why is there not a variant for option A to actually extend the 229 for traffic through the county as well as there is for option C? And could you perhaps explain to us why there are no options east of the county from option C as well within your consultation?
Okay. So I think that one of the things that's come out, so we've been doing quite a lot of meetings and out and about in libraries and with local authorities and local enterprise partnerships, etc., over the past few weeks. Your point about the variant has been put forward several times, that actually the variant can apply to all options, not just option A. And clearly that point is coming across to us. So as part of the consideration about the kind of decision that the Minister might want to take, then I think that's something that's coming across very strongly to us, that there is quite a swell of views that the variant could apply in any of the given situations, and clearly that can be put to him as a decision. Memory now, sorry, second part, just... Options east of sea. Options east of sea, sorry. So the department published a study in 2009 that had looked at 5 options, and some of those options were further east. The conclusion of that study was that those options were offered less value for money in terms of the benefits and the cost, and that they were much less effective in terms of alleviating the problems at the current crossing and in terms of stimulating economic growth. So the further away they were going, the less benefit they were proving. And so at that point, a decision was made that those options would be discarded, and we were therefore asked to take forward the next stage of development, just looking at these 3 that we're consulting on at this point in time.
Thank you very much. Next question. He used to be a councillor, very good one, but he's not anymore, so you can join in with the residents. Les Christie.
Thank you. A resident from Northfleet. I lived through the high-speed one being built, where literally at one stage it was going underneath my house. Mm-hmm. So I've lived with years of blight, you know, that I think is one of the worries that many of the residents have. But my question, or point of view really, is that you say in your document that about option B, you say any future development would have to carefully consider the impact, you know, in this area. Well, we already know of the potential of Paramount, who have a potential of 27,000 jobs, who've said they're not going to be there if option B is selected. And also, lastly, to say that where it connects with the A2 option B, it would mean all the traffic would have to go the whole length of Gravesham along the A2 before it could connect with the A229 and then down onto the M20. So I wondered if you've taken that into account. And to ask, if I could, our representative bodies, what is Gravesham, the 16th of July is very near. What's Gravesham Borough Council's response? And did I see David Brazier around? Well, what's KCC's response to it?
I'll tell you what the position is. The different councils meet, if I can take that last part of the question first. Different councils are all consultees in their own right. It depends when the council meeting actually takes place. I know Tunbridge and Morning Council have come out in favour of another crossing at Dartford. They've said that option C will be too environmentally damaging. Gravesham Borough Council we'll come on to the members a little bit later, but that's going to be discussed at their cabinet meeting, which is coming up, and if you want to look at the recommendations, it's on the website. Kent County Council will be coming up discussing at their cabinet meeting on the 15th of July, and that'll be published straight away. That meeting is actually... sorry? Well, it is, absolutely, but that's the sequence of the council meetings which are set a year in advance, and so that's where they all are. You know, I know my colours to the mast. I've always said for the last 4.5 years, if anyone proposed a crossing to the east of Gravesham, I will vote against it, and when it comes up, I'll vote against it. So that's where we stand. Can you answer the first couple of questions?
Yes, by all means. Paramount Park, this is exactly what the consultation is for. The consultation is for them to make their views known to us and for the reasons for their views to be put forward. We've been working very closely while we've been doing the analysis about the 3 options and about our intention to consult on all 3 options. So we've been very clear where we are. We ourselves have been meeting within the department with promoters at Paramount Park and with people who own land on that peninsula. So we are engaged with those people and we are talking to them and we are emphasising to them, as we are to everyone, that they need to put their representations in writing so it can be considered as part of the consultation. Because the government will publish a response to the consultation in due course. Once the Minister has made a decision, we will then have a formal response to the consultation. Blight, right. So this is clearly really very difficult issue, and we are very, very clear, and we are emphasising continuously that at this point we are consulting on broad locations. We do not have routes specified, and we will only get to that point of work at the point that a decision on location has been taken. We did look very, very hard about the approach to undertaking the consultation. There was one school of thought that said, you can't consult on location unless you tell us where the routes within those locations might be. That would require an extensive amount of even more detailed work to get to the point of them being able to consult, and it would cost an awful lot more money to do that work. The alternative approach is the one that was taken, which is that we do work to an appropriate level of analysis. We get a decision on location, and therefore we are not putting several routes and the properties that are on those routes under blight. So that's the approach that we've been taken. We're very conscious of the concern that people have, and we're trying to minimise the decision about getting to a location decision as quickly as possible by getting through the consultation quickly, by getting a decision quickly, and then about getting through the next phase, which would be the generation of options at the particular location that's been chosen.
Okay, good. Now, there's a couple of questions here. The lady in the blue first. You have to use the microphone, I'm afraid, otherwise people can't hear you.
You claim that there's no route being designed properly, but where's this come from then? This comes from the Department of Transport, which gives us a route. And it's only been available in the last couple of days. It's impossible to find it anywhere on the internet or anything like that. So why are you keeping it so secret? We're expected to make comments on to the consultation, yet we can't get the information. We've only just got this.
Can I just say, I think that came from, I think it was Councillor Theobald from Shoreham Parish Council, and he found it in the zip files of the attachments of the stuff that Department for Transport had.
Yeah. Okay. Can I answer the question then?
Okay, yeah, no, we know what it is, yeah, okay.
Yeah. We are not promoting, and we do not have any planned routes. But for the purpose of being able to present cost as part of this consultation, which is a key factor in helping people make a choice, we had to decide upon indicative routes. So we are not, at any of the locations, once a decision is made on location, the work that would be done then is to look at that location and what the specific options are for routes at that location. So the government is not...
Okay.
Sorry, I can't hear.
Let me just, because if you don't use a microphone, no one will be able to hear you. And what the lady said was you're asking them to make comments on that. And my understanding is you're not asking people to comment on that, because that's for illustration purposes. You're actually asking them to comment on a corridor.
We're not keeping it secret. I just tried to explain. We are asking for, at this point, a point of view about the broad location. We're not keeping anything secret. We've published every single piece of work that we have done during the analysis. We are very conscious of the fact that we needed to present costs. If we had come to you and said, could you please make a decision on location, but we can't tell you what the cost of that is and whether or not the cost is vastly different, then that would not either have been a good way of consulting on the location.
Okay,
so we are not promoting those
maps
as
aren't
routes.
those maps aren't final. They're just something
They're
you've
not,
used in the mock-up.
they were proxies for getting to a cost, which we believe is a fundamental part, and indeed is one of the fundamental questions we're always asked about any
there's quite a few hands up now. Richard, I think, was down there from CPRE, and then we'll work our way around on this side, and then we'll come back round onto the left. So Richard Knox-Johnson, who's just standing up now. Okay, you have to use the microphone. Just please wait for the microphones to come with you, because it won't pick up otherwise.
Thank you very much. I want to bring up 3 areas of research which I think is important to this project before we go ahead, because there are a great deal of people, many people in this room and in the County of Kent who would like to go for option 4. Don't do any of the 3. Firstly, I want to talk about junctions. You only have to drive around a motorway to know that congestion is caused at junctions. And the Department of Transport itself and the Highways Agency acknowledged this in the junction of the M4 and the M25, where there are no junctions either way of that, there's no way of getting on within a mile of either way, which reduces congestion at that junction. On the junction we're talking about from the A2, there are a further, in a very short space of time, 3 junctions, all of which cause or add to the congestion that's going on there. I don't see any research in your document about removing those junctions or making them all go on the A2 M25 junction and what effect that would have on congestion. And I would ask that you do the research on that so that we can all see what effect that would have. The second one, I see nothing in your paper about getting freight onto rail. There's a recent report from the European Union which said there's a capacity on the Channel Tunnel rail link of 43%. That's nearly half the time that it's available. Why is there nothing in the document produced by the Department of Transport, which surely should be trying to get freight onto rail, about that particular item? And thirdly, you claim in this document very strongly that lifting the tolls or having vehicle recognition isn't going to make that much difference. I very much doubt if many people in this room would actually agree with you on that either. If you've got the courage of your convictions, why don't you raise that, do away with the tolls for a period of 2 months so that we can all see what... Yeah. So that we can all see what difference that makes, instead of modelling it on a computer, which isn't always the most accurate way of doing things.
Okay, before we answer, a gentleman at the back will be next, okay? Can I just say, I think that's a view, particularly with lifting the barriers, that's been shared from a lot of people, actually, including Essex County Council, who I know their person responsible said, do it immediately to see what difference it actually has. It'll lose money, but not as much as £5 billion for a new crossing. Anyway, let's go back to those other points. If you still remember them, that'd be great.
Right, okay, so the point about the losing the charges altogether. The suggestion's been made before about dropping charges altogether. Ministers have decided not to take that forward. Again, this is an opportunity for you.
Okay, look, hold on. Let's get an answer. You might not like it, but you come to listen to the answer, so let's give it a chance.
So the consultation is an opportunity for you to express those points of view again. Work we've done before has showed that lifting of the charges completely would indeed increase traffic at the crossing and will make the situation worse. You can believe that or not, but that's what our analysis shows us.
Have you finished?
because it's a congestion charge and it is helping to manage the traffic.
Okay. It really is a bit political. It's not fair to ask the officers political questions. You need a microphone if you want to speak. There's Colin Caller, who's KCC member for Gravesham East.
You have actually reduced, taken away the charges from 10 at night till 6 in the morning. Has that significantly increased the traffic flow through there at that time? And do you find people hanging around round corners in order to get through? What has your studies found? It's actually no charge, 10 till 6.
Yes, I'm aware of that.
Has it increased the traffic flows through those hours? That would give you an indication of the traffic flows.
What we've looked at is whether or not raising the charges completely and what the impact would that be on the traffic flows.
Okay. Is that something you can come back to with an answer? I think it was a pretty good question, but maybe a written answer back to Colin Caller. There's a gentleman at the back who was waving a white piece of paper. Can we have your question now, please?
Is that working? Yes.
Yep.
Nigel Donovan, former parish councillor for Shorn and resident whose house is totally obliterated by the illustrative route that you've produced. In your document, you refer to, very specifically, to potential mitigation for the ecological disaster that you inflict with Route C, with local tunnelling. But you haven't actually shown any local tunnelling on your routes. And I just wonder whether you've done any costing exercises considering tunnelling, as in the Boxley Tunnel when you went underneath for the high-speed rail link, whether you've actually considered a costing exercise for tunnelling directly underneath the entire, well, potentially the entire route for Route C if it should be chosen.
Now, the costs that have been produced are based on the tunnel actually crossing the river itself, as opposed to the infrastructure that's then put in place either side of that, the actual crossing. So clearly, we're part of the mitigation to be more tunnelling of the actual road as opposed to the crossing itself. That would have an impact on cost. Now, that could be considered if there is a strong case for option C or strong support for option C. But at the moment, we costed on, we were trying to understand whether or not a bridge versus a tunnel at the site of the river itself would be material to costs of taking forward any of the options.
Okay, right, let's move over this side now. The gentleman who's in the white shirt, have you got a microphone? Let's have your question.
Yep, thank you. My name is James Marriott. I'm a Higham resident. A couple of questions. Particularly disturbed by the fact that you say you've been frequently lobbied by business. And that's an interesting statement given the fact that here we are, the residents of this area, lobbying you right now, putting our opinions to you. And what you've just said demonstrates the fact that you've listened to business before the local residents. And what interests me is the fact that you might have listened to the state of Dubai, who basically are the funders behind the Thames port development, Dubai Ports, who obviously have a huge interest in the building of a third crossing because it makes their asset more higher return. And so we're unconcerned about the fact that you're basically being lobbied by business prior to listening to the views of local residents. The second question is, why should we trust the projections that you put so clearly down here? You say that by 2041, the current system will be under intense stress. That's 30 years away. What you haven't factored in is the huge possible changes, for example, in the price of fuel that may affect traffic between now and then. And at the same time, we're living in a situation where only last week the projections on the HS2 project were shown to be wildly inaccurate. And finally, the Channel Tunnel was supposed to be being used 100% by this point, and as the gentleman referred to earlier, it's currently only being used 43%, which demonstrates the projections that were put down for the development of the tunnel in the 80s were wildly wrong. And that's not the distance between now and then is the same as you're saying between now and 2041.
I think we've got your points. Have you been lobbied by the people who own the DP ports, and are you confident in your financial projections?
Okay, so it's not about listening to someone before someone else. I think my point is that we are engaged in a series of meetings during the consultation where we are out talking to various people, residents. We've been in libraries, we've been in shopping centres, we've also been invited to speak at local enterprise partnership meetings. So it's just the fact that there is a broad church of people with an interest in where the location of additional capacity goes, and this is an opportunity in the consultation for all people to make their views known, and that's what I would emphasise at any single place we've been to and any single meeting we've been to. Can I ask James to take the economic?
Sure. The point that you made about future forecasts, the methodology that we have does actually take into account how oil prices are expected to change over time, which is an increase in real terms, and therefore the impacts that would have on traffic demand. We certainly would acknowledge that there are a number of uncertainties actually about the state of the future world that feed into demand forecasts. Which is why it's important when carrying out the cost-benefit analysis that we do sensitivity tests and scenario tests, that when we know that certain things, such as oil prices or such as future development in housing and office space and everything else affects demand. We have done that in the review of 3 options, and we will do that in further work.
Okay, good. There's a gentleman over in the grey over here. Then we work our way around the room a bit further. Can you get a microphone up to the gentleman with the sunglasses on his head as well for the next one? Okay.
My name is Mike Higgins, resident of Thong Lane. With regard to your consultation, I see that you started from the supposition that there has to be additional capacity to cross the river. What I'm concerned about is the A2 as it stands can barely cope as it stands. Building an additional bridge crossing or an additional crossing is not going to alleviate the situation for very long, even when you do build it, because as soon as you add capacity, that capacity gets filled up again. And I think basically I would like to know in your consultation where or what you are proposing to do with the rest of the A2 when you start to widen it in every possible direction, because we need extra capacity for housing, which we are supposed to have thousands of houses built in this area. We're going to have the Swanscombe development. We believe there's supposed to be an expansion of Blue Waters at some point. And then you're talking about building a crossing somewhere to cope, but the road can't handle it.
Okay, we got the point. The roads can't handle it. Do you want to pick up that point?
So in terms of looking at this consultation, we have done some work which we've set out about where impacts will be. We are particularly conscious of stress, particularly on the A13 and the M25 junction 30. The A2 is not showing up as problematic for the crossings. But separately to that, we are all doing some work looking at the A2 in terms of impacts of housing developments, which is some work that's going on within the department at this point in time already. So we are trying to look at all of these things. We're also doing some work at the moment on M25 junction 30. So we are not necessarily dealing with them all as one big thing, but we've got separate component pieces of work which we are then looking across in order to see what the various impacts and what they are telling us. Okay, good. The gentleman there, and then we're going to use this mic to pick up a few people over this side, okay? So over to you. Yeah. By the way, if you keep the questions short, we'll get through more of them. So if you can just get to the point.
Good evening, my name's James Ferrin. I'm the Communications Officer for the Gravesham Rural Residents Group. Ladies and gentlemen, before I ask my question, I just would like to point out that the website that was up on the screen earlier is very much in its infancy, but we hope that everybody communicates with us and unites and joins with us, and that website will grow exponentially over the next coming weeks. My question is, or my point is, a lot of people here would like an option D, saying not at the moment or not at all. We've heard this evening that in 2014 the free flow tolls are coming in. We also understand that in 2015 the junctions of 30 and 31 of the M25 are going to be remodelled. Now, a lot of people who use the crossing will know that when you go across that crossing, a lot of the congestion is caused by people coming off at Thurrock. So, if we're at a point where we've got free-flowing tolls and improved junctions on the other side of the bridge, that will reduce the congestion significantly, in my view and in many other people's view. To get to this position here, we've taken quite a long time, and you're talking about it being another 10, 20 years before any work is done. Why don't we wait for another 3 years to fully evaluate the effort and the results of that work before then deciding on a future crossing?
Okay, good point. Can you answer that?
So, I think...
A good point with some support. Can you answer that?
Yeah, very
right,
strong
okay.
support, and in Thurrock as well, exactly saying the same thing. 2 points. One is infrastructure takes a long time to deliver. And so this government, when it came in, was very keen that we should make some progress on resolving an issue that they felt and perceived to be very live and real, which is the problems at the current crossing. And hence being asked to undertake this review and do the consultation. Our best guess would be, at this point in time, that would be about 10 years to construction, but it could be sooner, depending on what it is you are building and the quantum of what you're building, because clearly the options are very different in what you're actually putting in. You're not the first. Yeah, you're not. It's not the first time that the view has been expressed that shouldn't we wait a little bit longer. I think, as I said when I started off, all our analysis shows us that there is a demand that is there to be met, and that demand is going to continue to grow. But again, if there are enough people in the consultation coming forward saying, actually what we would like to do is wait and see what happens once the free flow's been introduced, then clearly that may have an influence with the Minister, but I can't preempt what his decision will be, so that's why I'm encouraging people to come forward and put their points of view.
Okay, so that's why it's important to fill out the consultation. If you want to wait a couple of years, see what the effect of the free flow tolling in 2014 will be, put that in the consultation response. Now, Harold, you've got a couple of people over here. Okay, one at the back. Have you got a microphone over there? Okay, good. I don't think we can hear you, so just check you're switched on. And no, we'll come back to you in a second. Honestly, there's one down the front, which hopefully the microphone's working.
Is this one switched on?
Yeah.
You can hear me. There's a lot of traffic, a lot of heavy goods traffic comes from the continent and causes a lot of congestion on the bridge. Is that correct?
There's about 30%, I think it is, of HGVs come through the ports, so port-related traffic. It's a quite small proportion from abroad. But yes, the current crossing is used by a significant amount of HGV traffic.
Okay. So but I've heard that 80% of the heavy goods vehicles that go across that bridge are from Europe. And you only have to look at it anyway. My real question is, London Gateway Port, how much will that take off of what comes through Kent and doesn't stop? Because there's no point in it going into Gateway Port and then coming back down here, because it never did anyway, because basically it goes into Dover, goes over the bridge and disappears. Doesn't do anything for Kent.
Okay, good. Can you? I think the figure of 80% is that if you look at the about 80% of the foreign trucks that come into the UK actually come in through the Port of Dover or through the tunnel.
I don't think, I'm not, I mean, I can go and check, but my understanding is that it's not 80% of HGVs are from abroad that go over the crossing. And I've spent quite a lot of time down there. So yes, it's a fair proportion, but it's not 80%. Sorry?
Okay, answer that one quickly because no one can hear you on the television link if you haven't got a microphone. So do you want to add anything more to that?
Do you know the impacts of that?
Well, we've taken into account the effect of the gateway port in our analysis, and the total volume of traffic, including HGVs, is still expected to rise. So there obviously is growth there over time.
Okay, let's go to the back. The gentleman with the red T-shirt. I hope your microphone's working this time.
Try again. Nick Fisher from MEPM, also a member of the Gravesham Rural Residents Group. A report recently has been sent from Dartford Council to KCC highlighting a spike in ill health, lung disease, etc. in the area east of the current crossing. Now, surely by placing the option A, B and C where they are, you are just exacerbating that potential spike. I'm not saying the Dartford report is wrong. Do your figures include underwriting for increased NHS costs in the area, underwriting the government against a class action under Human Rights Act, Article 2, the right of life?
I think it's a no. We've conferred, the answer's no. But I'm sure someone will take a look at it over the next year or two. Okay, if you ask short questions, we'll get through a lot more. Alex has got some, then we will work our way round. And just try and look for someone with a microphone and wink at them or something, and they'll come over to you. All right, the gentleman there.
Good evening. My name is Graham Russell. I live in Chalk for 52 years, and I used to commute through the tunnel and back over the bridge. And of course, when it was built in 1961 by Trafalgar House, after it had been paid for, it was supposed to be free. But of course, the amount of revenue that they get each year is about 25 million, and it was last year when it was £1 for a car to go through. Of course, it's now £2, so it'll be 50 million next year. But the thing is, and I've said this for many, many years, that if they'd done away with the tolls, I mean, for example, is there any congestion on the Medway Bridge? There's not, is there? So it's exactly the same. If it came across the bridge and just kept going, the traffic would flow. Exactly the same as the Medway Bridge.
Okay, I think that's the same sort of question as why don't you wait until the threefold tolling is in. Leslie's got someone at the back. Let's have some quick ones now. We've got quite a few people with their hands up. We've got half an hour to go before we have to leave the school hall.
When an option is... Oh, sorry, Elizabeth Gressier from Sean. When an option is actually chosen, how wide is the corridor? How far off the diagram that you've drawn could be affected with the actual route?
Okay, how wide is the corridor?
I couldn't answer that at this point in time. What will happen is that once a location is chosen, we would ask the Highways Agency at that point to look at what the potential options are, and then those options would go through analysis in the same way that we've tried to do a high-level analysis in the corridor for the purposes of corridor at this stage. And then there would be, I think as James intimated earlier on, there would be further consultations, public consultations, to arrive at a preferred route, and that preferred route would be taken through a planning application. So at this point in time, we don't have a view on how broad it could be from the lines on the maps that we have at the moment.
Okay, the answer is we don't know. Over there, lady in the black.
Good evening. My name's Jill Moore. I'm one of the Friends of the North Kent Marshes, and I'm also a parish councillor for Cliff and Cliff Woods. I would like to say in particular, option C will be hugely damaging. It will damage SSI's, SPA's, agricultural land, greenbelt, amenity land at Shawn Country Park. Only 2 days ago, Martin Harper, the environmental director of the RSPB, said that in the UK we are actually sleepwalking into an environmental catastrophe. The government drive for short-term economic gain at the expense of our natural world will impoverish us all.
I'm going to push you to come to the question, because you can read. Please don't read it all out. If you've got a question, come to the question, or we'll have to move on.
Yeah. My question is, do you, in your department, are you different to the aviation section, who do not take into account in their cost-benefit analysis biodiversity, landscape and historic heritage? Will you be including that in your actual cost-benefit analysis?
Okay, we've got that. James, can you answer that one?
Okay. If you read the review documentation, all of the environmental impacts that you've described just then are actually assessed for all 4 of the options, A, B and C, plus the variant. And that would be the intention as well in developing and assessing the routes. So they are taken into account in the cost-benefit analysis.
Okay, so they are, is the answer. We've got one here with Harold with a microphone, and there's another gentleman further back. So we take the first one.
Hello, my name's Cheryl. If and when the new crossing does go ahead, will it be tolled?
There's no decision being taken on that at this point yet.
Okay, that's your answer. I suspect it will be tolled, and it'll have to charge the same as the existing one, but who knows? No decision has been taken on that yet, according to the Department of Transport. And there's one further back here.
Hang on, sorry, I hadn't finished.
Well, can you finish quickly?
Microphone away. I want to know if why has it taken you so long to introduce the free-flowing procedure in 2014 of October next year, when you think it's been so congested for so long? Why has it taken it so long to come into play?
Very briefly, in order to award the contract that we need to actually be able to deliver the form of charging, which requires some IT infrastructure, some cameras, some links up to DVLA, kind of process, we need to have made the legislative changes to the charging order that allows us to charge at all, to enable us to collect those charges through free flow as opposed to barrier. And we've also had to go through some secondary legislation on enforcement regulations, because clearly when there's no barrier there, you have to have the means of enforcing people who don't pay. That legislative change has been the first part on the process. That itself has been subject to consultation, which is just about to conclude. And without those legislation being in place, we can't place the contract to then deliver the services.
Okay, look, hold on. No, hold on, just be quiet a moment. We're going to come back over there, but I will just tell you, that's the officer's view, but I used to meet the Roads Minister fairly frequently. It was supposed to be introduced in 2012, then 2014. It slipped to autumn of 2014, and let's hope that they manage to deliver it when we really needed it 2 years ago. Now, we're going to go to the gentleman at the back, because he's been holding his hand out quite a bit. Oh, sorry, it's a lady. Sorry, okay.
Hello, my name is Maureen Newell, and I live in Chalk. And this is a question for you, Brian. The KCC is our strategic authority, and I want to know whether you, as an authority, think that we need another crossing, because that surely is going to affect the final decision. Because I remember reading about 2 years ago, Paul Carter, the leader of the KCC, saying it was a no-brainer and we just had to get on with it. Now,
okay, you've got the point. I mean, I can't speak on behalf of Paul Carter. I'm not a KCC spokesman for this area. You heard what Paul Carter had to say when he spoke at the hall in Higham, probably whatever it was, three years ago, something like that. I've already mentioned earlier on is that when KCC discuss it, if there's a vote, I'll vote against it. And I already have attended a committee meeting with Councillor Culler, and both of us were putting over the points quite strongly from the residents in this area, which was that they don't really want this in this particular area. Let's move on now. One over there.
Hello, can you hear me? Hi, my name's Richard. I'm a resident of Chalk. James, I think this is a question for you predominantly. You mentioned in the documentation that the modelling that you've used for the increasing traffic flow up to 2041, obviously we've spoken briefly about that earlier on. Have you taken into account any increasing technology that will be present in certainly the next 10 years that will significantly actually increase the volume of traffic that can be taken on the current road network as it currently stands? For example, driverless vehicles, which will increase the capacity by up to 2/3.
It was a very interesting question. We do not, in our forecast at the moment, take into account the possibility of driverless vehicles and the capacity benefits that could have when they do appear on the network. What I would say about that is that although we've seen a lot about how far the technology of driverless vehicles has moved on and seen some very, very impressive results, there are huge hurdles that need to be overcome to actually get society to accept such vehicles. And at this stage, we would not have a reliable way of forecasting, at what pace such vehicles might appear on the road network and exactly what the benefits might be. So, unfortunately, not at this stage.
Okay, we've got a couple at the back. I think Leslie's got one, and then we'll come forward a little bit. Okay, gentleman who's standing up now.
You're ardent Stop the Airport campaigner and local resident. I'm looking at your document, and to me, it makes a compelling case for option C. What I want to know is, and I think Elizabeth was alluding to it, what size of the road will option C be? Will it be a 2-lane road? Will it be a 4-lane road? Will it be a 6-lane road? Because that has an effect. And when you consult on the options, will you consult on the directions and the exact position of where those roads are going to go? Or will you make the decision and have the corridor and just impose them?
Okay, good.
For the purposes of this consultation, we have assumed additional 2 lanes in either direction. Once the decision's made on location, then we get into this options generation that I've spoken to about before and to the detailed design. At that point, the kind of decisions and the analysis done about what is actually required in terms of the actual capacity. So is it 2 lanes? Is it 3 lanes? And those options are put out for consultation, and there would be at least 2 opportunities for public consultation on the actual detailed proposals, both in terms of site and in terms of 2-lane versus 3-lane.
Okay, good. We've got one over there, with you now. I think it's a gentleman in a green shirt, right? Okay.
Good evening, John Dick from Shorn. In times of austerity, it seems that there's quite a significant difference between 1.6 billion and 3.2 billion, especially when we're all being asked to cut our cloth at the moment. And on top of that, it's especially so when you're looking at a benefit-cost ratio of 2 or less, which has been calculated over 30 years, which frankly, even in government terms, has to be considered low. So could you make a comment on that, please?
Well, the benefit cost ratios have actually been forecast over 60 years, which is quite standard actually for transport interventions. Because when you invest in infrastructure on this scale, it is used in practice for a very long time and delivers benefits for a long period to society. The benefit cost ratios are not massively high for any of the options. In part, that reflects the scale of capital cost that's involved. However, for all of the options, there is at least one engineering solution that has a benefit cost ratio over 1. The analysis is at an early stage at this point in time, and in taking it further, we'll need to look at whether the value for money actually is higher or lower than indicated by the analysis that we've got right now.
Okay, another question. I think it's Martin. Is it in the yellow?
Blue. Oh, yellow. Yes, right. Thank you.
Yes, that's yellow.
Blue microphone. Thank you very much. Martin Wilson, Friends of the Earth. One of our recent mottos is view things differently. I repeat that, view things differently. I'm going to ask you at the end, are you prepared to view things differently? Because one of the things that is the problem with the traffic there at the moment is the fact that Dover is so cheap to get lorries through, and all the other options are going further by sea, make it uneconomic. Now, cargoes for the north of the country should no way come through Dover and go through this tunnel. Absolutely no way. My personal view is it should be on rail, but the government has recently announced a large amount of expenditure for infrastructure, and I would be much happier if that was for rail rather than road. But these sorts of things need to be considered in your overall deliberations. So I'm asking you, are you prepared to view things differently?
Can I just come in there? Because I think that there's questions on the consultation that these officers can answer. I think that's a question which the councillors that are here and the politicians and Adam Holloway will feed back, because it's really a political answer. But I don't know if you want to comment on that.
I think my point in response to that would be that's exactly why we're having a consultation, is to get the views and be able to take those views and present them back to the minister so he can make a decision about where he wants to go to next.
Okay,
that's only if you write in and express those views to us
that's a widely held view.
That we can actually play them back to him as part of the overall
Okay,
response.
let's move on. Les at the back, and we'll work our way down again. 15, 16 minutes left, and I know that some of the people down the front want to have a few words as well. So, Les, who's got the microphone? Lady there in the white.
Hi, I'm Ashley Greenaway from Dartford. This is kind of a deja vu moment at the moment, actually, because I was in this situation 7 years ago. The flyover is literally in my back garden, and I just want to ask one question. What the hell has Dartford done to deserve a bridge, a tunnel, and now another bridge or a tunnel? And we don't even get it free when we go through the tunnel or the bridge. So why are we talking Dartford in the first place? It's just not fair.
The only thing
Haven't we had enough?
People can say that you're not a NIMBY because it is in your backyard. Okay, I mean, you've made the point. I don't think there's necessarily an answer there, but have we got another mic? We've got one over here. Where are we next? Okay, Harold's one next. Thank you.
Am I on now?
You are.
Right. On your slide, you say that the greatest journey time saving is option C. But if you actually look at that route, it's for north, south, south, north, but basically for traffic going to Dover or coming from Dover. Because traffic coming down, going to other parts of Kent, Surrey, Gatwick, will not use option C. It'd be no sense. So you're basing it all on traffic going to and from Dover, in effect.